Hello everyone, this is Comodin and today I'm going to be rounding off all the Decepticon deaths within the Transformers cinematic universe. Here we go. Now I could end this video quite quickly and just say Megatron and Barricade really survived. But that would be boring. Let's go through the long list of Decepticons that got killed off. From the first Transformers film, we have BRAWL. Now this was a wasted potential for the fact that, well, it could have actually combined with Bruticus. It could have used that element in future films. Of course, if they ever do, decide to bring another combiner, they could obviously just redo it and make some excuse on why he's back, just for the sake of it, or probably not even include him in general. But you gotta remember, from the first Transformers film, with a name like BRAWL coming into the mix, of course they dashed it Devastator. It was a glimmer of hope that we could actually get Bruticus in the future. Next up we have BONECRUSHER. Now he did play a pivotal role in the film. He was sort of the money shot when he was charging against Optimus Prime. He was the first death that really showed us that brutalness that these films can deliver. Then we have Blackout, the first Transformer to actually transform. Blackout wasn't just an ordinary Decepticon, he was a new concept, and he would be reused again in future Transformers iterations. Finally, we have Frenzy. He was the comic relief of the first Transformers film. Of course, he's very different from his G1 counterpart, which is unfortunate for the fact that he came out of Barricade and not actually Soundwave. But then again, the first film, I didn't think they realised how far this series would go. Now moving on to the second film, we have The Fallen. This would have been an obvious death from the start because he is the big baddie. We're all about to try to stop him from obviously harvesting the sun. And it is a shame that the scene between Optimus Prime and him didn't get extended enough as Michael Bay wanted it to originally, but of course with pressed time they had to cut that fight scene short. But then again, the concept of The Fallen would be reused again in future Transformers iterations. So next we have Ravage, and unlike Frenzy, we actually do see him eject out of Soundwave, albeit in satellite form, but we still get to see him in action, which is unfortunate towards the end where his tail gets ripped off by Bumblebee, because obviously. Next up we have Alice, and she was a pretender. She was trying to manipulate Sam, just trying to get her tongue into him, quite literally. But we see her demise by being smashed into a pole. Good job, Michaela, you showed her. Next up we have GRINDOR, probably the most gruesome death out of the Decepticons. His face was literally ripped apart by Optimus Prime, which in all fairness was pretty badass of him. Next up we have Demolisher, also known as Wheelbot. He was destroyed by Optimus Prime almost immediately after the Shanghai battle. Next up we have Devastator, and well, I might as well just put in the entire Constructicon list here. Of course we see Devastator die on the top of the pyramid by the railgun, but then we also see as well Constructicons still rumbling around in the desert scene after his death, which is just continuity error for that sake. But Rampage, Skipjack gets killed, Mixmaster gets killed by Jetfire, Longhaul gets destroyed when the airstrike, the same goes for Scrapper, Hightower, Overload, Scavenger, Scrap Metal, etc. Basically when the airstrike came, all the Decepticons died, including Protoforms. Now people can make up the excuse of, oh, these were different Decepticons but disguised as the same, but really, do you have to really reach that far to try and defend Michael Bay? It is just bad continuity error, and of course how rushed the film was and everything like that, and how they had to get it done in time. It makes sense why they would reuse them instead of having to go through the effort of remaking new models just for them to be destroyed in the end. I mean, it's lazy, but you can understand why they did it. And just for sake, I'll throw in that Insecticon that Sam just ripped apart. And a bunch of other unnamed Decepticons as well that you see scattered through the film. Now for the final two deaths, we have Sideways, sliced right in half in his vehicle mode by the awesome Sideswipe. And last but not least, we have SCORPONOK. Yeah, I was wondering where he gotten off to. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. His head's completely smashed by Jetfire. For the third film, we have STARSCREAM. Now, he was an absolute waste, considering that there were more films afterwards. Like, they could have really have used him a lot more. Who knows, we could have probably tried to go against Megatron in some way. And not seeing him fight with Megatron, Transformers 5 was sort of a bit of a disappointment. We do see him in the fifth film, but it's just his head, and that's just a throwback reference. And it is a nice moment when Megatron lifted it up and he said a few words to him, but really, STARSCREAM, did he have to get killed by Sam? Probably the most disappointing death, because it's like, I mean, it makes sense. It is kind of funny to see him get killed by a human because it is STARSCREAM, but in the same context, you kind of hoped an Autobot would have done that. But still, nonetheless, I don't think he should have died in the first place. He's such a rich character, but as they thought the third film was going to be the last, you can kind of see why they would kill him just for the sake of it ending. But then, little did they know, they're going to make more, so it feels a bit of a waste now. Talking about more wasted potential is Shockwave. Well, he only appeared for a few minutes, you know, he had a few moments, but of course he was just sort of a big thing to draw audiences in, along with his driller bot as well, that also got killed. I mean, what can I say? Shockwave is one of the richest characters in Transformers lore, and just seeing him being treated like that, I mean, it was cool seeing him get ripped apart by Optimus Prime, but then again, it's like, you know, we could have used him more in other films. You know, he could have actually had more potential. We do see his likeness again in Transformers 4, but come on, really? That's what you're treating us to, Michael Bay? Really? Following on that list, yet again, it is Soundwave, another rich character who just gets completely destroyed. At least it's by an Autobot, you know, his head's completely blown off, and I don't see if there's any chances of him coming back. I don't know about you, but that head blowing off is a bit indication, you know, with it all being separated apart. He ain't coming back, which is unfortunate. I mean, they could try and justify these characters coming back, but the writing would just be too ridiculous for that. They killed them off. They were intended to be the last, and it's just a shame they didn't see more potential in them, knowing if they were going to make more films. But at least we saw Soundwave on the ground and not in space. Following up from Soundwave is LASERBE. He actually had a big role in the film, more than I was expecting. He actually did speak a bit, and you know, he did prove to be sort of really menacing. And him being killed by Sam, that's justifiable. I'm fine with LASERBE getting killed by a human. But STARSCREAM, nah. Now we've just got a bunch of other Decepticons that were just in the fight. Just going to name a bunch of Decepticons that were killed. Obviously they don't have real personality, so there's not really a lot for me to talk about. We have Loader, we have DevCon, we have a Scrapper type Decepticon and a Long Haul type Decepticon, and a bunch of all unnamed Decepticons as well. Now moving on to ones we do know by name, we have the Dreads, we got Crankcase, Hatchet, we have Crowbar, and for just humorous sake we'll add in that Watchbot that Sam destroyed as well. Watchbot. Such a wasted character. I wish I saw more of him. Now we're moving on to the fourth film, and well, there's not an awful lot to talk about. Basically a bunch of CGI drones were killed, but they haven't got any real personalities. So the ones that we do know by name are Stinger. He was a character to go up against Bumblebee. Along with that we have Junk Heap, Traxxas, and as I mentioned, the two heads, and as I mentioned before, just a bunch of KSI bosses. And for sake of argument, I'll just throw in Lockdown and the rest of his crew members that were also killed throughout the film, just because, you know. And for the sake of it, I'll just throw in that Oreo Transformer because, well, that's evil within itself. Now moving on to the last night, we have NITRO ZEUS. He is actually high on the list on being really wasted since really the third film, because I don't really care about anyone in the fourth film, but the fifth film of Decepticons, and him just sort of being killed at the end by Bumblebee. I mean, he did last longer than other people in his group, but still, it's like, come on, couldn't Megatron survive? Couldn't we have just had him? I mean, people actually liked NITRO ZEUS' personality quite a lot. Moving on from that, we have Mohawk, which I did not care about this little shit. I'm glad he sort of died, really. I mean, people are still debating on whether or not he is dead, considering he spoke at the end, but that was just for comic relief purposes. I guarantee you this guy is dead, and he should just stay dead. Next we have Onslaught, another mixed design from previous films. I mean, there's no chance for Combaticons at this rate, considering they've killed off Brawl, etc. You know, there's no Bruticus in sight, unfortunately. And him just being chopped off and cut to bits. It's like, these characters died so easily. Why were they even used in the first place? Why were they given that introduction just for the sake of them being cut off the next 5 minutes later? And last on that list, we have Dreadbot. And in good old fashion, he got eaten by Grimlock. And last but not least, Infernicus. Now, he is not really a Decepticon. He's allied with the Decepticons, as he's with Contessa. He's like her guardian and everything. I'll just add him for the sake so people don't have to yell at me in the comments. Now, I didn't include Megatron because he's not a permanent death. He died once, then he died again, and that's pretty much it. He hasn't died. He's still alive this time. Thankfully, I was hoping in Transformers 5 he wouldn't get killed, and he didn't, so no worries there. Wow, when you think about it, at the end, the only Decepticons that really survived was Barricade and Megatron. Guess it's similar to Optimus Prime and Bumblebee. So there we have it, guys, all the Decepticons that have died within the cinematic universe so far, within 1 to 5. Of course, there's going to be more in future films, but do let me know in the comment section below which Decepticon was your personal favourite that sadly got perished. Anyway, guys, this has been a painstaking video to edit, but I've done this all for you. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe for more videos just like this. I did a similar video where I talked about all the Autobot deaths, so do check that one out. So there we have it, this has been Comodin. I hope you've enjoyed, and until the next video, goodbye.